I'm about to tell you a story. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Fact or fiction, doesn't matter. It's all how I tell it. We play at fulltiltpoker.com.
I'm Diego Cordovez.
Adam Schoenfeld.
Welcome to the Scoop! Brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. We have Rafe Furst with us here today. And Rafe, in addition to the fact that he's won a World Series poker bracelet and he's had other poker triumphs, is a man of the world.
Man of letters.
And has stories dating back to the prehistoric days of poker, and is also one of the founders of the Bad Beat on Cancer, and is involved in all sorts of
Stanford
initiatives.
man like yourself.
And a Stanford man, so that's 2 points for him right there. Or if you're one of these people where you have all these fascinating projects going on, very high-minded, very important, yet at the same time, you still dabble in the poker world, and you want a bracelet to legitimize yourself, and to counter the fact that you were...
The only reason I did was to legitimize myself. If I needed to, I'd win 5 or 6 more, but
You
now I'm
felt
okay.
one was enough.
One is enough.
No, but I mean, you're busy with many, many projects, many high-minded, important projects. Yet at the same time, do you still play besides the World Series, or is poker now in the distant past?
I wouldn't say it's in the distant past. I definitely concentrate, my poker playing during the World Series poker. I'll play a few other big buy-in tournaments in locations that are fun to go to, and I'll use an excuse to take a vacation and play poker as well. I'll play in a lot of charity events throughout the year, not just Bad Beat on Cancer, but others as well, and online at Full Tilt Poker. So.
Because you recall that many years ago we played at the Cameo Club in
Yes.
the $2, $4 limit.
Oh, I don't know that Rafe was...
Oh yeah, well, all the Tilt boys were Cameo Club junkies, right?
Mostly.
Yeah.
But Rafe, I remember more, even more. And you guys, I mean, maybe you're best known, despite your various triumphs in poker and otherwise, you are best
Poker,
known
business,
as part
personal.
right, but that you are best known as one of the Tilt boys,
Mm-hmm.
and that there certainly is a devoted following to your antics.
Yeah.
Describe the Tilt Boys briefly for the few who may not know exactly what it is.
Okay, before there was blogging, and before there was online poker, and before it was cool to put computer and poker in the same sentence, there
Before there were browsers. Like this was
before there were browsers, that's right. There was these news groups, rec.gambling.poker, rec.gambling, and I guess there was a bunch of us techno geeks who liked to play poker also, and we'd had these confabs in Vegas called bars. Bars still exist to this day.
Where you get together,
That's right.
maybe meet each other in person,
That's
where you
right.
only knew each other online.
That's right. And there's a big Bay Area contingent we'd get together as well, and a lot of the people who sort of were in that scene are now very well known in the poker world, legitimate,
But among the people, there was you, Perry Friedman, Phil
Sure.
Gordon.
Yep. Those are the Tilt Boys and whatnot, and there are a number of others. Just ran into Lee Jones the other day at Phil Gordon's party, and we were talking about ancient history, and who would have thought that it would have come to this, and just.
There's no conception of poker as a business for you guys.
No.
Of course.
And of course, the techno geek poker players, we weren't taken seriously by the pros, the people who were, right. And then someone named Chris Ferguson started winning things like the main event and lots of bracelets, and I think around that time is when Annie and Howard and Helmuth and Daniel and whatnot all sort of got online to the news groups, and Sklansky and Malmuth and sort of that's where 2+2 is born, and the whole 9 yards. And so
Phil is usually not included in the group of all the high techno, nerdy kind of
Phil Hellmuth?
analytical.
He's from Palo Alto.
Yeah.
he is from Palo Alto, though. So,
Right.
although he didn't come to our Tilt Boy home game until sort of long after that era. But sorry, to answer your question about the Tilt Boys, we basically we started writing these trip reports. Trip reports were kind of the thing, right? People write. We'd go to Vegas, and most of the people would write, hand after hand, like technical analysis of everything.
Then I checked.
Yeah, and I checked, and this, that, and the other. And we would go to Vegas, and we'd have these like marathon session weekends, and we'd write about everything but the poker.
Right.
And so we kind of became sort of infamous for writing these, tilt fests. And that was sort of the name of, sort of that's what the Tilt Boys came about, and people liked them, and we just sort of goofed around and had fun with that.
You guys were a cult,
We were a cult within a sort of a completely unheralded and unimportant group, and we're just
a cult within a subculture within an enigma.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Wrapped in riddle.
Yeah.
And we loved
Winston
ourselves.
Churchill said that about the Tilt Boys, I believe.
That's right.
Exactly. A cult within an obscure subculture.
Yeah.
That's right.
For sure.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, really, you actually came to light to a large degree when you guys played in a women's. I mean, we've talked about the ladies' tournaments, and we've
Right.
sort of
It's a
controversy
mockery.
about whether the purpose of ladies' tournaments and open tournaments, and whether they're bracelets and open tournaments. And I don't know the exact dates, but you guys, meaning you and Perry and the other Tilt Boys,
Yeah.
you dressed up as women and took part in a women's event.
Yeah.
And at the time, this became like a controversial thing because in some ways it could be viewed as a mockery of it. In other ways, it's challenging
Right.
even the legality of it and so forth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were in the Bay Area at the time, and I don't know if you were at Bay 101
I was
when
not
it happened.
there, thank
but-
God, because the image of it might still be seared in my head. So
well,
I
but you
just
can
read
go
about
online
it.
and read about it.
Reading was fine.
Rafe,
but
you
I
were one
have
of the
to-
entrants?
So it was myself, Phil Gordon, Perry Friedman, Mike Stern, my cousin, who ended up chopping the tournament. Actually, he was the winner. I was a final tableist as well.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, the ladies only tournament,
Yeah.
the men are going to
Oh yeah,
dominate.
it was my
the
best
final
finish
table.
up until that point. So I'm not letting go of that one. And Bruce Hayek, and Bruce ended up writing this trip report. But I mean, just to give you some context, Matt Savage was still dealing. Matt Savage was a dealer at Bay 101. A couple of the dealers were reading the news groups, and they got wind of the fact that we were thinking of doing this, and so they went on. They had a meeting, I guess, and they sort of decided amongst themselves, yeah, I guess they'd let us do it. They weren't gonna. Which we
But also in California, they're going to have a hard time stopping
That's-
anyone from doing
Right.
anything in a public venue.
This is true,
And
and
did they decide to let you do it because they were afraid of the consequences of not letting you do it, or because they thought this might be fun and good publicity, or a combination?
I think a combination. I think they all had a pretty decent sense of humor about it, and
But some people didn't, correct?
one or two people didn't. I think the participants, the entrants, and
That's what I mean, yeah.
One or two, meaning all the other entrants.
All the other entrants in the tournament did not have a sense of humor.
I don't honestly. I don't remember it. I don't remember that way, but I don't remember it not that way either. What I remember was the official version that we told, of course. And actually, Nolan Dalla wrote about it in Card Player, and so there you go back to the same. Nolan was a part of this group. There's
Right.
a ton of people now.
Was it just a goof, or was there like a point to it, or was there a point after
I think
the fact?
I think really it was a goof trying to look for a point. Meaning we just wanted to do it. It was so much fun. Like we didn't really have an agenda, and we knew what the agenda would have been.
Right.
But we
But
just
it,
really
it wasn't a commentary on the ladies-only tournaments
no,
per se.
because it was the first one that at least at Bay 101, and I didn't have any problem with it. I mean, I might have a problem. I mean, I might sort of. I understand Annie really dislikes the one at the World Series of Poker, and I can understand her argument being, look, this is a World Championship event, as opposed to.
And to speak for her, I don't think she dislikes it as much as she just feels that only open events should award bracelets.
Right,
That's her
correct.
argument,
That-
which
that-
is a logical argument.
Point taken, exactly right.
Yep.
So,
I strongly agree with that viewpoint. Have I ever mentioned that?
Of course. Now you guys did this again, correct?
yeah.
Now you wore women's or traditional women's clothing?
Thank you, Mr. Political Correctness.
Would Phil Gordon have to go to like the big and tall women's shop? Like that's
We went to Goodwill.
Or have a customized.
yeah.
And sight unseen, like Phil didn't go. I think it was me and Bruce and my girlfriend at the time. We went to Goodwill and we picked out outfits for everybody. Although I think I wore some outfits from, from some friends as well. So, but yeah, we just went to Goodwill and we just sort of all showed up and put on our stuff and there we went.
See, wearing women's clothing, that might be the point at which it crosses over from semi-serious political statement to mockery.
Right. Or it could be
And not
viewed-
that I'm against that.
or at least or at least perceived.
Right.
Well, we dashed any hopes of the political commentary.
Right, with
There-
the mockery.
there-
But I didn't even realize this until we were doing some research for the scoop.
You guys do research?
Oh yeah, we have a research
You have
department.
a department, yeah, okay.
And the research department also informed me that you replicated this,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah,
Recently.
yeah. It was a World Poker Tour event last year, around this time, I guess, and yeah, it was an open championship, ladies event, and we said, no, let's make a political statement.
So this time there was.
This time it was a little bit more of a political statement, but it didn't, of course, stop us from getting into drag. And
Did any final tabling this time?
no, we all. I think Perry lasted the longest, but they. Let's just put it this way: women's poker has advanced quite a bit from time one to time
Right.
two,
Proven.
and they kicked our butts.
Right.
And so yeah, we were out pretty much without fanfare, and but it was a lot of fun, and we looked a lot better. I have to say that our appearance.
Your couture standards.
Yes, our
have risen?
couture. I mean, thanks in part to my wife Laura.
Excellent.
Has, good taste.
No, none of the Tilt Boys entered the women's tournament at the World Series of Poker.
No, sort of. We were asked to by some people who had, I won't disclose their name, but
Not by Harris for sure.
no, but out of respect for Harris and the World
Yeah.
Series of Poker, and realized that this is what they want to do, and okay.
We talked to Phil Gordon, and he talked about the fact that Harris has been very supportive of Bad Beyond Cancer and the other
Yes.
organizations that you guys have promoted. And
Absolutely.
started,
And that's cool, and I could see.
which is very cool. And Harris, to their credit,
Yes.
has really tried to impose integrity on the whole World Series of Poker. I mean, they've acquired the reputation for getting every last penny, and they've certainly marketed themselves and grown the business. But at the same time, we had a situation where the main event was sold out on the fourth day. There were too many people. There were 500 people who wanted to play, which obviously represents a lot of money to Harris, since
That's
they're
right.
getting 6% of every 10,000. And Harris could have had some 10-handed tables. They could
Or
have had
alternates.
alternates, or they could have, and they didn't. And they said this would compromise the integrity of the event. So,
Yeah.
I mean, in that sense, and in doing away with the rebuy tournaments,
Mhm.
which there are different arguments to it, but one argument is that they also compromise the integrity by favoring people who can afford to rebuy and so forth. Even though it was a fantastic deal for Harris, because they were actually taking
Right.
juice out of the rebuys,
Right.
which is almost unprecedented.
Right.
But they limited those, so I
Yeah.
give credit to Harris on all those fronts.
Absolutely, and just I'll go further and make the point that while there's some complaining about the amount that Harris would take out, it's a free market. If you
Yes.
don't like it, you don't play.
Right.
And so clearly,
Some people miss that
clearly,
argument.
it's worth to the poker players who play, which is all of them, pretty much.
Right.
It's worth it. So
I-
if they squeeze too hard, Harris will know.
I agree with that 100%. Now, I've had my some criticisms of Harris. I also think they did the right thing,
Yeah.
even though they got themselves into a bad spot, which probably might have been avoided. But that's hindsight. They did the right thing by cutting it off because they couldn't maintain the integrity, and then just allow alternates or 10 seated. That would be bad. And Jeffrey Pollack or Seth Polanski made a good point, which is, and they're not ashamed of this correctly. It's a business. And just like you said, if you don't like it, you can go play down the block at the Venetian or Bellagio.
Someone
or,
else will
yeah,
start poker
they're
tournament or
yeah, very well taken.
Yeah.
A lot of people miss the free market arguments, and these are the same people who I saw as they were writing comments to the card players' coverage of this overselling situation, where they wrote, "There will be lawsuits." Like, and I was
What?
saying, there will be lawsuits. Like, if you go to a restaurant and you order, a steak and they're out of that steak, you sue them
Right.
for not having it, or what?
As we talked about, there's several things. First of all, I really like to be the individual with the lawsuit against the multi-billion-dollar corporation
That too.
with no chance of winning.
Right.
That's usually a good spot.
I'm sure the ACLU. No, who would take this case up?
No one.
No one. Yeah.
This very important moral crusade
Absolutely.
against overselling.
I'll tell you what, though. Day 1A next year and Day 1B next year will probably not be undersold.
Right.
Right.
I mean,
Right? I mean,
Right.
and in the long run, I think this will sort of work out fine.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us on The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. And Rafe Furst has, as expected, proved to be very interesting.
as a Full Tilt
And-
affiliate and Red Pro, I feel we should extend him the courtesy of a second episode.
Yes, so he will be back next week on the same channel. And in the meantime, write to us at thescoop at cardplayer.com.
I've seen just about everything. Seen queens overthrow kings, and straights flushed away. I felt the sweat after every re-raise, and nearly buckled after bad beats. Seen rags lead to riches, and witnessed countless miracles on the river. So if you want to play, take a seat and show me something I haven't seen. We play at fulltiltpoker.com.